Saying this, he wrenched Chubb roughly after him. As they stumbled together along the uneven path, his captor continued speaking. I could not bear that fucking detective, he said. This is talking about the court case. I could not bear that fucking detective, he said. I loathed him. Vogelsang. What a bloody name for the enemy of poetry. It means bird song. I hope you know that. If the bugger was a bird, then he was a vulture, ripping the liver from a living man. I could not stand it. I did not like it either, said Chubb. His captor paused and blinked, but was not diverted from his speech. After I was evicted from the so-called court, he said, I hung around in Bird Street to see where Mr. Birdsing would go, for I wished him punished in the court of art. He was not difficult to follow with his big square head and his duck-leg march. He headed down the hill to Swanson Street, past all the homo newsboys screaming, Herald, Herald, dirty poems, read all about it. If he'd had a car or a taxi, I might not have tracked him half so bloody easy, but he was just a bloody copper, so he got the 15 tram, and I had him from that moment on. Birdsing bought a ticket to Glen Iris, and stood scratching his balls amongst all the men in the open centre bit of the tram. I also bought a ticket to Glen Iris and sat myself up in the glass compartment with the women. The old biddies did not like me being in their little chook yard, but no matter how they swayed and muttered, I would not give up my seat. I hated them, you know, their prim little mouths, their closed purses in their laps. At this stage, I really had no plan except to prevent all further insult to my publisher. I was determined it would not continue a second day. Chubb asked him, was he McCorkle? And in the answering gaze was reminded not merely of the eagle's fierceness, but also its dire unknowability. I am he said. By now McCorkle had dragged him quite far north, and what had seemed safe refuge had become something altogether different. Not unnaturally, Chubb began to have concerns for his safety, and these were not lessened by his captor's passionate address as they left the path and set off squelching rapidly across a sodden lawn. Have you ever looked up publisher in the Oxford Dictionary? The giant demanded. It will surprise you if you ever do. One whose business is the issuing of books, one who undertakes the printing or production of copies of such works, their distribution to the booksellers and other dealers or to the public. Who could write a bloody thing like that, he shouted, his voice echoing among the mausoleums. A cypress hedge blocked out the yellow sky. It was, the madman continued, as if no one at Oxford had ever met a bloody publisher. Do you know what a publisher is? I bloody hope so. This, Chubb told me, was not a casual question. He feared he might be strangled if he answered wrongly. A friend, he suggested? A defender of the work? Bloody right, a friend, a defender of the work. And here was this flat-footed policeman intent on jailing him. How could we let that be done? How would any of us stand there and let that crime be done? Would the French do it? He demanded, as he stamped across the undrained ground where the old graves were sunken and neglected and thistles choked the rusting fences. Would any civilized nation do such a thing? They have made me hate my country. I tried to speak up, but the fascists evicted me, so I hid in the tram, crouching amongst the boilers like an old goanna in the chook house. Vogelsang stayed in the middle, reading about himself in the Herald, all the way to the terminus.